This is Powering the Future, a podcast series brought to you by Smart Grid Forums. One planet, one power grid.
This is a special edition of Powering the Future. You'll get to know all about my company, Smart Grid Forums, and SGT 26, the annual forum that we organise. We'll take a deep dive into the power sector, so let's go. Hello, I'm Mandana White, the founder and CEO of Smart Grid Forums. We're an independent conference organiser specialised in the European power sector. I launched this business about 14 years ago, and my intention at the time, I'd been in the events sector in the infrastructure markets for about 15 years at that time. My intention really was to launch a business that put the customer first. Well, at the time, first of all, my own personal experience is in infrastructure markets. I've worked my entire career in different infrastructure markets, telecoms, construction, and so on. And when I started this business, I was really searching for a sector that was driving innovation, that had a good level of investment, and that had a lot of questions to be answered. And I found a group of power grid engineers who were looking for answers to some basic questions around substation automation. And that's how the conversation got started. You know what? I love my customers. I know that sounds cheesy, sounds a little corny, but I love interacting with my customers. I love the research that I carry out to understand their point of view, their insights into what the issues and challenges are, but also their ambitions for where they want to take the grid. So all the research that I do and the interactions that I have with the customers is what really drives me, gets me out of bed every day. And within that, it's really the creativity. It's really thinking about how to turn all of those problems into solutions that are going to help a sector move a very important agenda forward. And that is, for us as a society to meet the climate goals. When we talk about climate, it's often on a policy or strategy level. It's rarely on a practical, technical level. And that's what really my conferences, my business is all about, is bringing down those high-level policy issues and making them very practical and tangible, and focusing them on technology and how that can best be implemented and operated to bring everything to life, to make the climate goals a reality. I mean, there are lots and lots of conferences, lots of meetings around climate-related issues. And for power grid engineers, there are events run by associations, by suppliers themselves. There are interest groups. But what really differentiates and complements that whole ecosystem of events is that we're really about bringing buyers and sellers together around the common issue of how best to implement technology. So we don't look at technology for its own sake. We look at the sort of real life value of the new technologies that are coming onto the market and how they need to be implemented so that they can be operated in an optimal way. What has inhibited that in the past is that there's been a divide in terms of understanding between power grid operators and the supplier ecosystem who provides this technology. They often speak different languages, they have different drivers, the utilities are very much from a government driven background. The suppliers are private sector organizations, and so they can tend to talk different languages. Our conferences bring these two camps together onto one platform, and we facilitate conversations that are in both of their interests, but we use one common language to get them to see each other's point of view, to address the issues that are most urgent, and to come to agreement on what the way forward as a community is. I think one thing that is not fully appreciated is just how complex a sector it is. We're talking about a technology that was implemented 100 years ago. It's very traditional. It was designed in a certain unidirectional architecture. And now we're asking that same infrastructure, that same technology to be flexible, bidirectional, to allow the integration of renewables and EV charging, and to be dynamic, to be responsive to what consumers need. That's simply not how the grid was designed. And in order for us to move in that direction, it's going to take a great deal of rethinking, reimagining the grid, implementing new technologies whilst the grid is live, and therefore taking the risk of, perhaps the technology actually coming down whilst it's being implemented, which is quite normal with new technology implementation. But keeping things going, keeping the grid going whilst all of that change is taking place. That requires a great deal of, planning, investment, implementation, testing, and then constantly in the operations process, constantly reviewing and improving the operation. So it's a really, really complex area. And you often hear suppliers or new people who want to enter the workforce saying, oh, but it's such a slow-moving conservative sector. And that's for good reason, because electricity is the foundation of everything that we have in our economy. So we can't afford to take too many risks with it. We need to implement new technology in a very well thought out, calculated way. So I think that's something that people don't realize, just how complex it is and how how it's got to be handled in a very managed way. The biggest issues that I'm hearing from my utility customers are around the supply chain. So moving at speed to implement new technologies, accessing those technologies, given that we are now a very regional sector, very inward looking in terms of, because of geopolitics, in terms of sourcing from Europe and implementing and operating in Europe. So supply chain has become a big issue. Renewables integration has been on the agenda for a long, long time. It's not getting any easier. It's a very complex process, but there are renewables players, more and more renewables players coming into the market, and the need for integration is intensifying. So new technical solutions to that. Then there's the issue of flexibility, how to provide electricity to the grid on flexible terms, so that we're not just building and building more capacity, more technology, because we're a little uncertain about the level of demand from EV charging, from all sorts of things that are being discussed for the future. There's just some uncertainty around that. So flexibility is a big issue. And then on top of all of this is cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is a constantly evolving issue. It's not something that we can implement once and be done with it. New solutions need to be brought onto the market all the time, new approaches, new threats. The threat landscape is evolving all the time. And now with all of the trouble in the world that we're seeing, the threat of cyber warfare is real. And so utilities need to be really upskilled and prepared for that as well. These are some of the key issues that are driving the sector right now. On top of that, investment. How much should we be investing in all of this new technology? And how can we make sure that we get good return on that investment? So Smart Grid Technical Forum is our annual event. It takes place at the end of March in different European cities now. Next year it's going to be in Paris. It's the sort of coming together of different technical groups within the grid. So this year we had communities, substation automation community, SCADA systems, smart metering, cybersecurity, big data, and asset management coming together. Next year, we're also introducing energy storage. This is a new technology that the grid is considering, and it's going to be the answer to many, many congestion problems in the grid. So we're going to introduce a track on energy storage to talk about how that technology can be leveraged by grid operators, and also a track on distributed energy, distributed power generation, so renewables, and how renewables energy can be better integrated into the grid as well. So basically, we have a day on infrastructure investment, which is fairly high level. We have a series of high-level panel discussions around the big picture issues. Then we have 2 days of technical case studies delivered by utilities across 6 tracks, as mentioned. We also have an exhibition of the latest solutions on the market. Running alongside that, we have a series of live demo labs and technical workshops. And then we also have an awards ceremony where we recognize utility innovation excellence. So that's the format. And what I would say, the reason we have utility representatives coming back year after year, and I have some of our customers who have been coming back over the last 12, 13 years, every year, to our events. The reason is that we have a really strong focus on utility initiatives. The program is almost entirely delivered by utility speakers. All of my research is carried out with utility representatives. And really, our conference is unique in that it puts the utility center stage, and we amplify their voice, their concerns, and we influence the supplier community to provide solutions that are going to help them meet those climate goals. So it's hard to say what's the favorite part. Of course, the awards are amazing because it's the opportunity to recognize innovation excellence within the utility sector. But I'd say the technical case study program is the foundations of the event, really. That's where we hear from those technical specialists on how they've actually, how they've rolled their sleeves up and implemented those new technologies into the grid and what their experience has been, the reality of the experience. It's not just the promotion of technology, it's about the reality of implementation, all the thorny issues that have come out, all the lessons that have been learned and the roadmaps that are needed to take those projects to the next level. So that's the foundation of the event, is the case study program, but we're building that out with a fantastic infrastructure investment briefing as well, where we have the senior managers through a series of panel discussions shedding light on the big picture issues that are affecting the sector. And then new for this year are also some technical workshops that some of our sponsors and suppliers will be giving on some key technologies and standards that are on the horizon and that will be influencing the way that utilities work in future. So I think, the investment community might be interested to come along and learn about what's going on in the sector in terms of how new technologies are being implemented, what the emerging issues are, what the problems are to be solved, so that they can identify startups that are answering to those questions and have solutions that could be very market oriented, very market ready. So investors have a lot to gain. Startups also, we're inviting many more startups to come and talk to us about their innovative solutions for the grid. The grid has traditionally been very conservative in terms of the types of technology it will procure. It has tended to work with the big players, but increasingly now grid operators are looking for innovation and they're looking to the startup community. They want to hear fresh new ideas. They want to work and partner with startups in terms of, getting some of these new technologies out into the market, getting them tested in the grid, and then upscaling from there on. So we'd really like to invite many more startups. And then third, cybersecurity is a big theme. We've created a cybersecurity zone in the exhibition. We have a track on that already. It's a hot topic. It affects every aspect of the grid. So for those cybersecurity suppliers who've got a really innovative solution, they have the opportunity to come and meet technical representatives from every single domain of the grid, because security is now everybody's business, and security by design is what we're really aiming for with new technology. So cybersecurity is going to be of greater importance as well. So we want to invite many more cybersecurity suppliers to the zone as well. Well, yes, you can reach us at www.smartgrid-forums.com, and there you'll find our contact details. You can reach me directly, and I'll be very pleased to have a conversation and see how we can welcome you to the community. Well, electricity is the foundation of society. Without it, we can't get much done these days anymore. We'd have to go back to candlelight, which would not get us very far. So there is a shortage of electricity. The electricity is becoming less stable as well as we integrate renewables. And there is the risk of blackout, increasing risk of blackout. So we need to be working together as a community, collaborating. We need to be kind of embracing new technologies. We need to be inviting graduates who are looking for a future-proof career that's going to make a real impact and a difference to society. We need to work together to make that a much bigger thing.
This is Powering the Future, a podcast series brought to you by Smart Grid Forums. One planet, one power grid.